Hi everyone. Let's get started. It's 10:02 here. So welcome to this third session. This is the time started to understand a little bit about things, start to play around and some apprehensions as what we are building and where we are going, what sort of concepts we are learning. So as usual, let's start with any questions you have from the previous week's session, and then we start the actual content for this week. But we'll try to spend 15-20 minutes on this. Otherwise, things get delayed towards the end and we have to skip some part. So how is everything? Did someone try? Someone pasted that we should be using protected. We shouldn't be using protected variables if the branch is not protected. So first of all, protected branches where you don't merge directly into the same branch. So something like a main or master branch is usually protected in nature, where you only you don't commit to that branch, but only via pull request or merge request, your master or main will be updated. Same for certain release branches, etc. So GitLab has a special feature where you can specify that that variable will only be available in the protected branches. So that was the good catch or point that I saw in the WhatsApp group this week. Other than that, it was quite inactive, like dull sort of thing. I'm not sure if people really trying this project or all these activities. Not a project, basically these concepts. Are they trying it? Any questions? I see Harish has got some bunch of questions on his paper. All others are like not bringing the cam off, switching on the camera. And any questions before we move to the content? Because I am in a hurry. I would like to proceed with the content if there are no questions. All right, then let's move on to the today's session. And I believe people are trying these sort of things
And
as well.
Sanjeev, can we summarize what we did in the last session for those who haven't gone through or
So the first session was mainly our multi-account setup, where we looked at AWS Control Tower and some features around it, how you can enable certain controls in AWS Control Tower, build multiple accounts, apply different policies, etc. Second session, we mainly looked at GitLab as one of the solution, because I am seeing quite a number of startups and medium to large enterprises moving towards GitLab away from Jenkins. So it's getting into that market. And then also GitLab allows you to easily migrate to other Azure DevOps and other stuff. We looked at branching and merging strategies. We looked at how we can enable a GitLab branch, uh, a, a GitLab pipeline, which is branch aware and can deploy to different environments. We also looked at a Packer-based pipeline where we can build golden images for my company. So those were the key things that we did in the last few couple of sessions.
Yep.
Okay, so let me share my screen and you guys can see my screen. So just to brief a little bit on the previous activities, we looked at, we logged in as one of the main account. Then we created this dev QA prod, 3 different accounts. The control tower automatically created audit and logs account for us. Right now, it's still manageable situation. It's still like what, 3 member accounts, 2 special accounts, and 1 my main master account. So it's still 6 accounts to manage, but things can grow really fast in any organization. If they come back that they want to experiment with new projects, new POC accounts are needed and all sort of thing, they will need more accounts. So wanted to brief a little bit onto how these accounts are managed. So these are the URLs that typically companies will use to switch between different accounts. So for example, I am logged into my master account, and I can easily switch from one account to another account using switch roles. So you can copy paste these URLs, changing this account number, changing this alias name as per your requirement, and changing this role as per your requirement, and keep them in some sort of config stage or wherever you are logging. You can use these. So for example, you will see for member account, I'm using the different role, a different account, but for my audit and logs account, I'm using AWS control tower execution role, same for logs account. These are special accounts. Please go on mute if you are not talking.
And if you can give me admin permissions, I will take care of.
Make you co-host.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
So these are these are the sort of URLs you can put it there. There is another plugin that I have seen organizations using. So if you look at this is an AWS extend switch roles. These are switching roles. Very like you go to a URL of this kind, or so it's a bit of tricky thing to switch roles, etc. So what I have, this is an open source plugin that you can install in your Chrome, Firefox, Internet Edge, or all these browsers. And you can provide a sort of config file. So here is this plugin that I have installed. It's called AWS Switch, and you can provide a config file to it. So you can provide that at my dev account. This is my account, and this is the role. By default, log me into the Australia region and have this color coding for my account. So same goes for QA, prod. I'll use a different color coding. Green for my dev account, and red for my prod account, logs account, and audit account. So if I provide this kind of config, which basically telling AWS that this plugin has permissions to switch between different roles. So what Magic It does is that I can basically switch to these different accounts from this tab now. Now this is through a plugin. So I can switch to these multiple accounts. I can log to my logs account quickly, and you can actually do some of this feature from here also. This is a sort of role history, but this maintains only 5 latest accounts. If your accounts grow more than 5, then you can actually start using this plugin as well. But be aware, this is a third-party plugin, not something AWS has developed, or but it's an open source, works with all sort of browsers. All right, this is one of the trick that I wanted to show you. Next, let's take a look at how we can create our own brand name in the online world and try to set up a website. Obviously, my intention is for today, maybe set up a static website, but that's not the actual learning I want to give. Once we do a static website, we will look at how dynamic routing can happen, but that we will park for the next session. So we'll make it complex. Static website is available on the internet. You can find a number of videos that can host static website. We'll purchase a domain. We'll set up the common infrastructure. We'll set up a hosted zone, a certificate for our website, and then we'll host the website as well. So let's try this. So I haven't done all these activities from a long period of time, like since long back I did this. We'll try to do it live. So there might be some steps I may miss out or something happens, but let's try it. I have seen a lot of people not trying or not implementing these activities, and that's where a lot of gaps can be. Once you start doing it, it will add a lot of values. Building a static website is straightforward, but making it secure, giving it a custom name is something that takes, those are few additional steps. If you can give me a good domain name that we want to try. Uh, Actually, let's go with something really simple. I haven't done on this website. I found that this gives relatively cheaper domain names. If this doesn't work, then we have another domain that we are hosting. Then we can take a look at that as well. We'll take this one. Oops. What name is that?
What? What's that?
Oops. Okay, let me go and I need to create an account. Oops. That's a lot of information in there. I'm putting my credit card details and okay, so we have placed an order. See, I never used this website, but straight away it says set up your DNS for your domain. So this is where the what we wanted to experiment comes into picture. We purchased this domain name called DevOps and Cloud Labs.homes. So let's go back to our account. We are in AWS account. Let's use our production account. How many of you have done a hosted zone setup? I hope it's a bit of learning from here onwards. We are in prod account. It's a global service. Create hosted zone. So before we can register a domain, transfer domain, all sort of activities are possible through AWS as well, but AWS would be much expensive. These sites allow us relatively cheaper names if we want to for learning purpose. You can create one for like $2-3. This is the domain name that we have. I don't think we need www or anything. Public hosted zone because it's going to be public facing. Traffic is routed on the internet. Private, you can also create private hosted zones, usually within your VPC, within your EKS clusters and slightly complex networking scenarios that you are managing yourself. In those cases, which is not publicly hosted websites, then you can use private hosted zones. Now it will give you these 4 name servers. Okay, this is tricky. It's asking us to watch a
DNS, web hosting DNS, custom DNS.
Every provider will have its own interface, so it will be unique on every platform. But the idea is that we should be able to link the domain. We can buy domain from any place, GoDaddy or any other place, and link it to the domain name servers that AWS has given us. I think it's a bit of tricky doing this. Okay, I think I need to go back to my other account where it's relatively simpler. There you go. Let's remove this. This is that personal DNS server, name server, NS1.
কটা ব্রেড আছে? হ্যাঁ ঠিক আছে।
Valid IP address. Anybody has idea?
I think you need to choose it like a custom domain option or custom DNS option. If there's something like that.
Custom dynamic DNS. No.
No.
Custom list.
From the domain list, maybe you select the domain you purchased. Then there's an option to manage the domain. Maybe you check the box and see if there's an option to manage that domain. The DevOps Cloud homes.
No.
Yeah, manage. Then custom.
There you go. Oh God, it may take up to 48 hours to take effect. Usually it shouldn't be that long. Let's see. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is the custom domain setting where we can specify the third-party DNS wherever we are configuring it. So it could be Azure, it could be AWS, wherever we want to do that activity. What it does is that it will set up our this specific hosted zone that we can then use to create further record, domain, subdomain, etc. Right now, this can't be reached. Nothing is hosted here. We will have to verify contact information. Okay, so I may have to do additional verifications before this website and this can be used. I got few emails from this platform to confirm my email address and phone number, etc. I'm doing it on a parallel screen. Umakant has a question. Is AWS don't provide domain hosting for public? Yes, we can host. It's going to be slightly expensive. Creating a host name within AWS. So you have the option that you can register domain within this. One, it will not allow you configuration of things that we tried just now. hosting a domain. Usually companies will have their domain hosted outside. But yes, because there is an opportunity, AWS has also started hosting those domains. So you can.
So, yeah, so Sanjay, actually, I was asking because we are using the public domain name registration, right?
Yeah.
The third-party domain name. So, what is the advantage? Let's say if we enable this public domain DNS on AWS, because AWS itself also provides the DDoS kind of security, right?
Yeah, we can. Yes. So it all depends. Organizations usually have certain domains and premium features enabled. So they usually go with GoDaddy or some other platforms where they have already registered and they usually don't want to change that. And also,
Okay.
in case they have to, for example, move it out of AWS to Azure or some other platform. So services which are easily possible outside, then they are, and then also don't want to tie it with AWS altogether, everything, then they usually go with third-party solutions.
So it means third-party domain name we can use, but parallelly for the DDoS, we can use the AWS provided service, right?
Yes, all the AWS services you can enable on top of this domain, apart from
And
the other third parties providing those
okay.
services. Yeah.
And DDoS would be the parameter kind of security, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
Sanjeev, I have a question here.
Yep.
As you already purchased the domain in the Namecheap, and after that you transfer the domain in the AWS. So don't you incur bill in the both side? I mean, in the Namecheap, also in the AWS as well?
No. It's not like that. It's the domain hosting and the DNS part that we did is what Namecheap will charge us roughly $2-3 a year.
Yeah.
AWS creating this hosted zone, even if we have this domain anywhere, even in AWS, this will still have to be done.
Okay, so that means AWS will not incur any charges for that.
Yeah. AWS will not charge us for that activity.
Okay, got it.
All right, let's see how we can configure something on this. Let's create an S3 bucket. Just help me with the steps needed to create an S3 bucket, and we can then try to host a static website and see how it goes. We are in prod account, create a bucket. Usually it goes with this name, right? Something like this. Bucket name must be unique with the global namespace and for naming conventions. One second.
Sanjeev, I have a question. Why
Yep.
we are creating Route 53? Let's say if we have our application behind some of the load balancers, application load balancer, right?
Yep.
That load balancer also create some FQDN, correct?
Yes.
Can we bind that FQDN with the domain and public third-party domain name? That is also possible?
Yes, but that specific domain is not long lasting, right? So that can change based on the moment you create a new load balancer, that thing will be lost.
Okay, so Route 53 advantage is it will create the unique domain name, right? In a
Yeah.
particular environment.
Yes, your company will have a specific domain name, and then your different services within that domain name you can configure, like your app1 dot DevOps Cloud Labs dot homes is hosting your mobile app. There might be another application and something like that. So you can create multiple subdomains, etc. You can host different APIs if you want to, and the load balancers behind the scene can be short-lived. You can point to them, and then your Terraform or any infra as code that you are using will keep on changing that. So that's the idea.
Okay, so public domain or company domain will be published at the third-party domain, and AWS domain is basically the subdomains, right? Is it kind of child domain, you can say?
You can say that way, but we are just using the public website for registration of our domain, and then all the management of that domain is we are doing in AWS, whether we create subdomain or whatever.
Because we are creating NS, means whatever Route 53 is creating, it is the name servers domains, right? Name
Yes.
servers.
Correct.
So here multiple name servers are there.
Yes, those are more of redundant for redundancy reasons. There are 4 name servers given, but the idea is that any one of them will be useful.
Okay.
Also, maybe there are some additional advantages hosting domain in the Route 53, like path-based routing, weight-based routing. Also, you can put like any naked domain there also, as well, which actually not provide by other DNS providers like Namecheap, GoDaddy, or something like that, if I am not wrong.
Correct. Yes. A lot of other things, right? This is a now AWS service, so you can like add a lot of other features. Like Route 53 has latency-based policies and all other sort of smart things that AWS only offers. So
Geolocation routing,
yeah.
Okay.
First, just checking. Should we use the www dot something, or is it just the plain host name that we should be creating? Just checking in one of my previous created setup.
Which account are you using? Are you creating this S3 bucket?
Everything in prod.
Okay.
Sanjeev, I had a question regarding the load balancer argument.
Yep.
So let's say we are using ISE to deploy our infra, and one of the outputs is we get the URL for the application load balancer. So since that is like ephemeral, how would I connect some domain name to that particular Elastic load application load balancer URL?
Yeah, we'll do that. Those sort of activities. Let's first set up try to set up
Cool.
activities. All those things will follow. Let's create this. A lot of things go into this, very standard process, but you have to remember all those things. Let's go with this and see how it behaves. Let's go with one in Sydney region, this name. ACL recommended. Advanced settings. Create bucket. We have this bucket created. This is where we host a static website. We need an index.html. Just trying to create one. What else? There is a bucket policy that has to be applied.
Now you need to check if the bucket is public. I think the bucket is not public yet.
We need to make it public.
Yeah.
Lock all public access is on.
Yeah. Just go up. Yeah, just go up.
Let's say the policy. They think there is a policy also has to be applied before that. That policy is let's see. Bucket policy can't be saved. You either don't have permission to edit the bucket policy or bucket policy. Oh, so first we need to allow. This is where edit. Right?
Yep.
Now you see this is a security threat, updating bucket policy. And if you have configured control tower appropriately, a sort of control in control tower, which prevents making buckets public, you will see that your account will show as non-compliant. This is, we are going against the certain good practices. We have disabled the, I hope it should allow. No. Still it says not public.
You may have to go through ALB, right? Probably to create ALB, and you have to set a target group probably.
We'll not do it that right now. Usually load balancer and ALB will come into picture when you have compute resources available.
Okay. I see. Makes sense.
You have like
Okay.
some target groups. This is a static website scenario.
Okay.
Should be possible without any such complexity. So this is how, let's see. Custom error document, no such keys. No such key.
It means you don't put any index.html or error.html in the bucket.
We did put the index.html.
Okay.
You see?
Yeah. But okay.
Yeah, but it's case sensitive. Error is
Error is case
is
sensitive.
E, no, capital E. So.
Capital
Okay.
E, yeah.
Okay. We can't rename it, right? We have to rename object. Wow. Index. And it didn't find the error as well. Oops. Okay, so we got the static website hosted, but it's not a nice looking URL. It is not secure. So we will go to CloudFront. But before that, because we want to make it secure, we need to create some sort of certificate in our account. So we haven't created any certificate yet. So let's again go back to ACM. The certificate manager. This was the another activity. Now, the only problem with this is that we can create a new certificate, but because we have just registered the domain, let's see if it is successful or not. Request a public certificate. So a certificate in AWS is just to prove that you own a specific domain. You cannot request a certificate for google.com, yahoo.com, or any such platform. You can only do it for your own managed domain name. So that is one of the reason, having a hosted zone in your AWS account, then it's very easy to create these certificates, because you will be creating certificates for your load balancers, your all other AWS services. So let's request a public certificate. This would be my website certificate. And there are two ways. You can do a DNS validation, or you can do an email validation. If you do not have permissions to modify DNS settings, if you are managing your DNS, for example, say Namecheap itself we are managing, and you are not the admin over there, but you have access to the email address that was used. So you can do an email sort of validation, but this option is the preferred one if you are having your hosted zone available. So let's see what it will do. You can request a certificate. Now this cannot be granted to you, because if you can always request for google.com, microsoft.com and all. It will only be approved if you own that domain name also. So if you have the capability to create records in your hosted zone. It says, should I create this thing in the hosted zone domain? Then you have the capability to do this. The other option is we can go and create this CNAME and this value.
Sanjeev, I am little confused because certificate you are generating here, right?
Yep.
And the domain you have registered on a public third-party domain, right?
Yep.
So the certificate would be the wildcard certificate, or only for the specific application certificate?
Right now we will create a wildcard. So we should have used the start dot something, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me delete this certificate. Request a wildcard certificate.
Hi, Sanjeev, Deepak here.
Yes, Deepak.
Could you please explain this concept, what you are doing right now, these two wildcard?
Yeah, just give me a few seconds.
Sure, okay.
It gets tricky, and I didn't want to do it in advance and bring something that is not there. Even if it takes time, doesn't work, we can always come back and fix it. But the best learning is when we do it with our hand. And I know not everybody would have the time and the patience to register a domain, set up a static website, or later on we'll convert it to a dynamic routing. Wanted to do it online. So when we requested a wildcard certificate, star.our website, then it said these are the CNAME and CNAME value. And I clicked create these because I'm managing this in AWS itself, then I have this option. If I was managing this domain in, say, Azure or that Namecheap website itself, then I can't create these records here. That's another advantage of managing the hosted zone in AWS. So it has created these. But the thing is, I'm not sure if our domain is fully functional or not yet. So that could take quite a bit of time. Usually, if the domain is already approved and everything is fine, then this should happen like fairly quickly.
Hello.
Yep.
Yeah, it's Danik speaking. I was thinking that you're supposed to confirm this on the domain site. Because if it's hosted on AWS, you need to confirm it automatically in AWS.
Yes, we have configured this. We confirm.
No, I mean confirm. To confirm that certificate, are you not supposed to go to the website where you are hosting where you bought the domain?
No. That would defeat the entire purpose. The only thing we do in AWS and the website, the connection is that using these name servers. That's it. All subsequent activities, being able to create multiple subdomains or CNAME connecting to load balancers, because every time we will be creating new load balancers, new services within our AWS account, we will not go back and configure it on that platform. Then it will defeat the entire, then every organization would prefer setting up their domain in AWS itself. The challenge we have is that because we have just now procured this domain, there are usual delays because of that reason.
So Sanjeev, once the certificate will be generated, we will attach this certificate on the third-party public domain?
No, we will attach
URL?
this certificate on any of the service that we will be creating in AWS.
And don't we require to attach any certificate with the third-party domain?
Not really. That part is required if you want an end-to-end encryption. Most of the AWS services will, like for example, if you attach it to an ALB, then your ALB will offload that SSL, and your connection from ALB until your EC2 instance is going to be not secure. So it's only the ALB that will terminate the SSL.
But if we are using wildcard certificate, so we can advertise or install this certificate, the common certificate in any top to bottom.
Yes, you can.
Layers.
You can, but this certificate you cannot install on an EC2 instance, or it's not like this certificate is mainly meant for AWS services.
Okay.
So this is specifically for AWS services. You will use this certificate. You cannot download like a PEM file, install it on Tomcat or those kind of custom stuff.
Okay, so this certificate would be for the AWS internal use.
Yes.
And the third-party URL we are publishing, we need to request another certificate from the C authority, right?
Yes. If you want to end-to-end encryption, for example, even after offloading your certificate on ALB, you want ALB to EC2 also encrypted. In that case, you will need a custom, like some other third part, some other private.
But AWS can also provide that certificate.
AWS can also provide a private.
Okay, because AWS is also certificate authority, right?
Yes, but again, that's an extra step. Most of the companies, typically the startups, will probably not do that. They would be happy offloading at
the third party. Okay.
Yeah, offloading at ALB and then having just a HTTP connection from a load balancer to your instances. But you can always do that. This is quite complex as well as expensive.
So this is the private certificate authority, right?
This is the private certificate.
Means inside, let's say ALB and the and to the computer we can install this certificate. Use certificate.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
This is not gonna work. This will take quite a bit of time. Most likely, it takes usually 48 hours. That website said. I was hoping that it would be much faster. What we were going to do after that was create a CloudFront distribution. Choose our bucket as our distribution. That's the endpoint. And this is where we were to use the certificate. Anyway, I think we'll have to do it. There you go. And this is where the certificate, once you have a valid certificate in your ACM certificate, then that particular certificate will show up here, and then you will associate that that one here. And then your entire end-to-end encryption and all that will be sorted. I wish I can show you this working in my not able to keep track of. This is my different account where I am hosting this website called bootcampexperts.com. And this again, I'm hosting on a static website, Bootcamp Experts. And if I show you my ACM, this is the certificate that I have requested. Bootcampexperts.com and www.bootcampexperts. Creating this CNAME into my Route 53. So by creating this CNAME and this value, which is equal to this value, I'm able to create my own certificate and link that certificate to my CloudFront distribution. And then obviously there is a bucket with this name. And this then get hosted on. So I did this long back. So everything is hosted on S3 bucket. So this is what I wanted to achieve, but it's probably gonna take a few hours before we can start using our domain name. So
Yeah, Sanjeev, actually, I have maybe identified your problem why certificate is not registered. Because you registered your certificate in the Sydney, not in the North Virginia. For CloudFront, actually, so far I know, all certificates should go to the North Virginia region if the bucket itself is in other region.
But right now it doesn't know that we want to use this certificate with CloudFront or not. Yes, you are right. If we have to create a certificate just for CloudFront distribution, then this should be created in Sydney, in US. But right now we don't know, right? You can still create your certificate in other regions as well. If you have to register that with CloudFront, then you need to follow that Sydney, US path. But regardless of that, it should still be able to create certificate in Sydney region as well. Because Route 53 is a global service, it can communicate with all other.
Makes sense.
Okay, so we'll park this session for this particular use case here, and then we will move on to our next learning. Next week, what we want to do is you guys try to set it up to this level. There are a lot of tons of content available which can help you set up a static website. We will take it to a level where we have CloudFront distribution set up. We are using an SSL certificate through AWS, a hosted zone. And now these things will start to become a little complex, like things will be expensive as well. It's not super expensive yet, but probably in the range of maybe $1 or $2 for your domain registration, and maybe $1 or $2 to host a static website, because your hosted zone will charge you roughly $1 a month or something like that. So it's not super expensive, but for you to learn these things, it will be in that range. So let's look at what new things we wanted to do. So we were able to purchase a domain, but we could not create our own certificate yet. We will see what the issue was. There's a very good chance that after 24 hours or after 48 hours, this will start working automatically. The domain registration will start working. The only after all, like the first time, usually this delay is possible. After that, automatically you will see that any new certificate you need to create, it will be very straightforward. You will create a Route 53 domain, the CNAME, and automatically the certificates will be available for you to use. It's only the first time because we have just purchased the domain, and it has to update all the name servers, and it's a global activity across the entire worldwide web has to update basically with this domain, and updating that you are using AWS to manage it. It's going to take a bit of time. This is basically we wanted to do last week, basically. So that's why it's in the last week's session. I hope you would have tried these activities in your account, creating golden images, CI images, and Docker pipeline in using GitLab, etc. Your CI/CD using GitLab. Let's now move on to our other topics that we want to cover. So now we have started creating a bit of resources in these different accounts. So you will see that we are creating certificates, buckets, policies, all sort of things, right? Maybe your startup needs compute resources and those sort of things. You are creating Docker images, so you will be needing a container registry, all kind of such stuff. So automatically your accounts will start to, deviate from standardization. You will start creating these resources. Some of them will follow good practices, some of them will not follow good practices. So what's the solution? So as they mentioned, right, the monitoring does not stop when you create accounts. It's a regular activity. Control Tower has given you one set of rules, one set of regulation, but you need to go next level. New additional tools are there and quite debatable as to why so many tools are needed. Why so many tools? Because not every tool is capable of giving you all the insights. All these tools are built for different purpose. So for example, a control tower is to manage your multi-account setup, to allow you to have controls which you can prevent or manage at a certain layer, but still allow your developers and your architects to do some activities in the account. After they start using it, your control tower is not gonna monitor all of them, all the possible rules. Your control tower is not going to recommend you whether certain cost optimization opportunities that are there. So that's why different tools will come into picture for different functionality. And it's very important to understand what functionality or what sort of features are offered by which tool. So we'll go further into those in today's this particular session. So we'll understand that why there are so many tools at different levels, because different tools have different purpose. If your EC2 instance is running in your account, control tower does not have access or does not have privilege to monitor the runtime of that environment. Are the operating system packages are up to date? Are the Tomcat or the packages that you are installing on your EC2 instance, are they up to date or not? So that the vulnerability management is not managed by control tower. Similarly, cost optimization recommendations are not managed by control tower. So a lot of things you need to have sort of additional tools. Let's take a look at one of such tool called Trusted Advisor, and we'll see how to get started with this one. There is nothing posted. What we will do is we will try to host this in the audit account. We don't do anything in the master account. No services will be created in the master account. Dev QA prod is to host our applications. Remember, Control Tower created a couple of new accounts for us called audit and logs. Logs is mainly to have centralized logging of the most of your application or CloudWatch or Cloud Trail logs to be stored in the logs account, and then lockdown that not everybody should have access to logs account. And audit account is to create such services which are used for audit purpose. So we can try to create these different services in the audit account. Trusted Advisor is a regional service, and it's a paid service. We don't want to. Why am I not getting options to enable trusted advisor? So this says there are a bit of different tiers that it supports. So in the basic support, we only have certain service quotas and core security checks, which we have right now in this account. But in typical your organizations, and you will see additional support plans, and that would enable you to have more number of checks, full set of checks at a business layer. It does not do anything basically in a basic account. That's a bit of shame. It's only checking whether we are hitting service limits. Service limits are like how many number of VPCs we can have in our accounts, how many different elastic IPs or those sort of things we can have. It's only checking that kind of check. So how can I enable this to? What sort of checks are possible with developer? Only service code and code. Even with developer access, we will only have basic checks available. So I again probably won't be able to demo this in the entirety. Again, another disadvantage of doing it live is that not everything can be done in a basic support plan and in the live session. But the idea is that if we are, wow, we have started seeing some sort of recommendations. And especially these accounts are pretty new. These accounts have not been used. So you will see such sort of checks coming in once in a while. So I think we created a Packer image, and one of the security group it created was having these are some of the security groups that got created in different regions, and they have access from all over the internet, unrestricted access. So this is just one of the example how trusted advisor would scan your accounts and give you different advisory options at each AWS well-architected framework pillar. So from cost optimization point of view, because we don't have an EC2 instance, it will detect whether certain EC2 instance has, for example, 4 CPUs and 4 GB of RAM requested, but it is not using all of that from quite some period of time, say 2 weeks, then all those things will show up here. Same we saw from security point of view. If you create a bulk bunch of security groups, other stuff right now, because we don't have these resources. So all these checks will be done against all the possible resources, and you will be given feedback on all these options. I would suggest you guys take a look if in your organization, if it is possible, because this requires a bit of higher level of support plan, but the advantage of having this kind of, we don't really want to understand the trusted advisor functionality. And the idea is what sort of information this tool provides, and what within that information, what are the AWS best practices. So for example, this security related things, basically what it's telling us that we should have our security groups not open to public. We should have those security groups restricted. So this is what we want to understand, that a trusted advisor can give us information about these options, security related, and all other AWS well architected framework, all the pillars of AWS. It can provide us the information. In my organization, we see a lot of this information, operational excellence and security and cost optimization, and we regularly come and visit this section, and then based on that, we create certain tickets in our backlog and try to fix those issues. So it's a very nice tool, just that it requires a bit of extra support plan. I wish I could show you from my organization, but if we couldn't, then I will try to bring some screenshots from my organization, and we'll see if we can do a bit of masking the information and only bring the relevant information. Let's look at another product, Security Hub, and we will again go back and see if we can. I hope that this doesn't require next support level, because it can charge us for all the activities that we are performing. Why do we need extra support for this? Wow, this has a 30 days trial, but I don't want to do it in this account. Why not audit account? Okay. I think I went to the wrong service, Security Lake or something. So this is 30 days trial. I would highly recommend if AWS allows us to create it, then we will again look at certain rules and sort of regulations that AWS recommends. It runs automated security checks across our AWS environment, prioritize and remediate the security issues, and consolidate everything into one single place. That is one of the biggest problem organizations face, that they know that there are issues within the accounts. There are buckets, EC2 instances. You don't want to go to a bucket tab and then look at buckets issue, then go to EC2 instances, look at EC2 related issues, EKS clusters, and all other sort of things. This gives us a consolidated view of all our AWS accounts, all our AWS regions. When things get complicated, it's very difficult to track all these things. So this does that purpose. Before you can enable Security Hub standard, you must first enable resource recording in AWS config. You must enable this. If you do not first enable recordings, you might experience problems when you enable Security Hub standards. Once you enable recording, Okay, I think we can enable if we want to. Sydney. Cloud formation.
He sent you this.
Yep.
The security hub is scope is at account level or OU level or organization level.
It's entire organization level.
Okay. So you okay? I see.
So even though it will appear as if it's a regional service and we are doing it in one single account, but as we go, we can add more accounts and more services, more regions to it.
Okay. Thank you.
It's asking us basically to enable AWS config. If you guys are aware, AWS config is a tool in AWS to monitor the state of your AWS resources. And based on that, it will try to identify. So for example, if something changes in your EC2 instance and you have configured it to behave certain way, then Security Hub will prompt you. Let's try this. I'm not sure if we really need this feature. We are looking at the standards, AWS foundational security best practices, CIS best practices or benchmark, different versions. Your organizations or in the interview, the questions would typically be that how do you ensure certain compliance levels? So you mentioned that Security Hub provides pre-configured best practices in the form of standards, and we can select those, or I selected those and scanned my AWS accounts, multiple accounts against those standards. And we will enable Security Hub. After you enable Security Hub, it can take 2 hours to see the results because it's going to scan all your accounts, all your regions. And here you see, manage all your findings from a single region. Because you want to have that single view of all your regions, etc. You have enabled the standards, but you can aggregate it in a single region as well. So for example, within Sydney, you can also monitor your different other regions as well. So this is my aggregation region. Basically, I'm saying this is my main region where I'm aggregating everything, and which other regions I can link. I can link, for example, US East 1. So what it does is just I'm trying to show that I don't need to enable this service in all different regions, or may have to enable in other regions, but I can view dashboard in a single region itself. Now, if something goes wrong in this region, I can still view it in the Sydney region itself. So by doing those two standards that we enabled, it has enabled 304 controls. And right now, because it's still processing all that, you won't see any major outcome. But yeah, after maybe a couple of hours or by scanning your all the regions, etc., you will start seeing the findings and other stuff. See? Just started some scans and it found a medium severity issue in the AP Southeast. Logging of delivery status should be enabled for notification message sent. So these are some of this is where our interest is. We want to understand some of these good practices SNS topic should be encrypted at rest while AWS with using AWS KMS. It did not find that to happen. So you can ignore it for now, but understand that what AWS recommends, that SNS topic should be encrypted. The IAM password policy requires at least one number. In our account, we don't have a strong password policy. S3 bucket public access setting should be enabled. Block public access. But if you remember, we enabled it on one of the account to allow public access. So all those sort of things, it will start finding and it will start reporting here. MFA should be enabled for the root user. I have probably disabled this root user MFA, and this is highlighted as a critical issue. I think we wanted to do a bit of demo or something, or for this user, we haven't enabled the root user MFA. So you see, within few minutes, we started seeing different stuff. Most of it is in AP Southeast 2. But if we work a little bit in the other region, all the things that we did so far was this region. So we can see all that. There is a good UI. Sorry. These are some best practices we have enabled. If we want to enable additional stuff, you can check with your architects, or they can, depending upon whether you are in a bank or a financial organization, or it will enable different controls, and you will see that critical issues will start showing up. Or this is basically all the 248 controls in your code build pipeline and in your EC2 instance, RDS, so all these things. Our main objective is to understand at least 5 to 10 such controls in AWS foundational security best practices that we can take in our interview and speak about. And good opportunity is usually something to do with EC2 instances, something to do with, so these are the ID, EBS snapshot should not be publicly restorable. Similarly, something to do with bucket. Block public access settings should be enabled for all in your entire account. So we need to understand at least 5-10 such rules, which we can talk about in our discussion. That is the main objective of practicing with this product.
Yeah, Sanjeev,
Yeah.
the standards we had, right? AWS foundational and CIS benchmark and NIST, few other options we had. All the controls are distinct, are they common? Any overlap among those standards?
There will be overlap. Yes, there will be overlap.
Okay.
There is going to be overlap. These are certain rules that are applied, and whatever AWS recommends, they have put it all together here. But if you're like in a banking or insurance, you want to benchmark against CIS 140, then you will use this. It is some sort of healthcare, or I'm not sure, like this is for a different.
No, that is for the US government, 853. That's our life, day to day.
Okay. Okay. This is, I think, cards and payments, or PCI data, or something to do with payment and card industry, I think.
Yeah, credit card industry. Yeah, financial.
They will enable this. So there will be additional controls in this. So this has
like all the all the e-commerce websites will enable PCA.
Yes.
Whoever take the credit card.
Correct. So I wouldn't like, you guys can try depending upon where you are in your learning curve. If you are really starting, I would suggest just focus on enabling just one of this. This has bunch of good practices, just understanding at least 5 or 10. And typically some of them will actually overlap with your control tower as well. Control tower will also notify some of those good practices, and AWS will also, this foundational practice will also enable them.
Okay, what about, does the control tower findings come show up here too?
It's not linked directly, Control Tower or this one. These are two different products. Control Tower has its own rules execution, and Security Hub can be enabled separately.
But guard duty findings it'll show up here, I think.
Again, I don't think so, because we haven't enabled guard duty. So
No, if you do, I'm telling.
if you do, yes, then your other products then start to integrate. Yes, it might be possible that it's reading from other services as well, and also feeding into other services. We will take a look at well-architected framework. There, all these things, whether bucket is public or not, certain things WAF can read automatically from Security Hub and other trusted.
Yeah, what I read was all the security tools findings will be aggregated, and no, this is a one-stop shop dashboard for any security.
You see, earlier we aggregated the regions. Now here you can come and say, I want to add more account to my listing. So you can add that different accounts that you have. For example, I want to, let's take prod account. Right. You can use this page to associate your account with other accounts. You can send membership request invitation to others. Isn't the email address optional?
It's an optional though. You don't need to, in fact.
Yeah. Not sure. Very tricky to add accounts, but this was the idea. Oh man, now it's enabled. It's when you leave this text box, then it's enabled. So I have invited this prod account, so I can aggregate all the information into this audit account. Now I will go to my prod account. I think we have just enabled it. We should have got an invite here somewhere. Right now we have just invited. And there you. So it will say that a different account. The following AWS accounts has requested permissions to access certain Security Hub settings. You can optionally accept one of these invitations. You can decline. It was by mistake, or you can say accept. So now what it is doing is that this specific prod account is managed by Security Hub admin of my audit account. So all my findings and all the information is basically managed by the other account. So this is one way that we can invite all our dev QA prod, even logs account to this specific Sydney audit account. And because it's now aggregating all the regions also, all the accounts also, so you will see everything you can monitor in this same account. And it will tell you which account has issues, which kind of buckets have issues, which kind of services have issues, all sort of critical, high severity, and stuff like that. So it says guard duty should be enabled. You can ignore this if you don't want to enable it.
Sanjeev, for this Security Hub, are we creating this Security Hub in a particular account, right?
Yes, audit account.
And audit account. And in this account, we are forwarding, let's say, the audit logs and multiple logs, right? VPC flow logs. And we can store it in a S3 bucket, and this Security Hub will start scanning to the multiple account. Those are forwarding the flow logs and every logs on centrally onto this in this Security Hub account, right?
You can say that thing. Yes, you are managing all the. So it's a regional service.
Mm-hmm.
So your production account will have Security Hub enabled in Sydney region, and it would be monitoring all that in that specific region.
Mm-hmm.
But all the aggregation is happening in the audit account in a specific region. So you can visualize all those things collectively at a single point. But that does not mean that it's everything is flowing from one region to another region and that sort of thing. It's more of an aggregation, logical view of the aggregation.
Security Hub is the regional service, right? Or
Yeah.
the global service. So if it is a regional service, let's say if there is a, you can say, Britain kind of environment, right? In the Britain environment, do we require to create another Security Hub in that region?
Yes.
Or
all the regions that we are operating in, all the regions or the accounts that we want to aggregate, we have to enable it in all the regions and accounts. At the end of the day, it's a regional service. The only benefit or because that was the biggest advantage and disadvantage of service. The security hub is that it can scan and provide you that visualization. The missing piece was, can you collect it all together at a single place? Then they have enabled this feature.
Because it will not impact on the cost if I am providing or enabling security hub in a multiple region, right?
No. It's based on the number of scans it's performing, number of assets you have in your accounts. Based on those API calls, you will be charged. In a smaller account, it would be very minimal sort of thing.
So will it only depend on the audit log or also take care about the VPC flow logs?
We don't need to configure all those additional things, flow logs and all. It has its own controls. I don't think it looks at flow logs, etc. It looks at AWS config and other like security groups and other things, not specifically flow logs.
Yeah, if we are comparing with the CSPM tool, right?
Yeah.
To the security hub, then because CSPM tool is also depend on the VPC flow log because that also provide the network kind of
Yes.
security posture.
Correct.
But security hub will not provide that kind of visibility.
I
Right?
doubt if it will look at flow logs, but it will definitely look at your VPC security groups, NACLs, subnets, routes, all sort of other such AWS configurations.
And
So
can we
is
enable?
go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, please go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
So I have a next question. Last question. My last question is, can we do some auto remediation kind of things? Let's say if there is a misconfiguration is happening, right? By
Again,
enabling the
yes,
auto remediation, can we do that?
custom actions are possible, but again, it is through the event bridge and you can create those actions. Haven't tried that, but should be possible.
Because for that we need to enable the, let's say, the alert channel and
Yes.
approval channel, right? Change management, we need to integrate with that, right?
Correct.
So I don't think that can be supported with the security, right?
Security Hub, they do claim that it has some sort of remediation. If you saw that the opening, this thing, right?
Because why I'm asking, first we will provision security in a multiple region, right, for different accounts. Secondly, it will not give the centralized kind of visibility. And thirdly, it is only providing the configuration and misconfiguration as well as the audit related informations, not the network kind of flow log information.
Correct.
And that will definitely increase the administrative efforts, right?
Yeah. So yes, that is there. It's a regional service need to be enabled in all accounts, all regions. And there are APIs like you can automate this sort of thing. There is an API call which you can make, which you can specify different accounts and regions, and you can enable that. So it's not that difficult enabling it. It is the consolidated view you can have through inviting those accounts and aggregating regions. So by inviting, so for example, we invited prod. So now in audit account, I can see all my prod and QA and dev accounts if I want to. So that way you can aggregate all the things. Remediation, they do claim it. I haven't seen or implemented any solution on this. See event bridge.
Okay, event bridge is.
Yeah, most likely any sort of any incident, say it captures a critical incident, then you can report it into the event hub and then you can create solutions on top of it. Lambda functions or any sort of thing. But I think only very mature organizations will do this kind of automation where they know that if this happens, then I can remediate it using this sort of thing. Smaller companies have, they keep trying different POCs in the same account and they usually will not implement an auto remediation process.
Okay. Okay, fine. Thank you.
A question, Sanjeev. Is
Yep.
the security hub, does it cost It's cost money for
It does.
enabling this service?
It does, yes. So first 30 days is free. After that, first 1 lakh checks, but 100K checks, it is 0.0010 per check.
I see. So this, you can say it is a CSPM tool from AWS?
We can say that, yes. It's a monitoring, tracking your security posture.
Okay. So is it a people, customers, people who work with, they use third-party CSPM tools instead of Security Hub? Let's say I have multi-accounts, because Security Hub is only limited to AWS, right?
Yeah.
So if I have a multi-account, and I don't think Security Hub can go on to a third party like Azure.
It will
Okay.
not. It's a
So
specific.
let's say I can purchase third-party tool, CSPM tool, and to monitor AWS and Azure and other things, right?
Yep. Absolutely. In a multi-cloud environment, or if you are you have already invested into another product of monitoring the infrastructure side, you can always look at that option.
I see. Okay.
But
one
we
example of
wanted
that
to-
is a Prisma Cloud, from Palo Alto.
Yeah,
That's what.
I think we will look at those options in the mentorship, etc. sessions later on.
Okay.
Not sure if already covered cloud security posture.
No, we
Saurabh,
haven't covered yet, so we will
haven't
be
covered
covering
it.
it up. So there are a lot of tools that we'll be discussing about it. So
Okay, thank you.
But here we wanted to bring in this project, we wanted to bring a view of what different layers of monitoring, logging, security, compliance, these things are possible within AWS services and how they are linked. Okay, I will go and decommission these services later on. Now, this also, like security hub, etc., will monitor at certain layer. It's monitoring your AWS services. But for example, you can also enable additional services like inspector, guard duty, etc. We'll see what inspector does. Which guard duty and your control tower will not do. Automated discovery and continuous scanning of your workloads. This is the main use case behind using inspector. So, for example, we created a lot of AMIs the other day. If we start creating a lot of EC2 instances using those AMIs, after a period of time, we may be installing all the latest products today in those AMIs, but after a period of time, they start to become, out of date. There might be security issues notified in those AMIs, etc. That's when product like Inspector comes into picture. It has the capability to scan your AMIs and your EC2 instances that are running in your environment and then suggest what actions you can take or what issues might be there. I'm not sure if when you activate inspector, you grant inspector permissions to discover. So basically you are allowing inspector to go and look at your instances, discover a lot of data. And in that process, you may be exposing your sensitive data. So it's basically you are responsible for all those permissions. There was a classic view as well. Again, we'll not find much output in this because again, it's a very new sort of environment. We don't have any EC2 instance created here. But you see, it can scan your pipelines. Within pipeline, you can scan your container images. So those step-by-step instructions are given. We will not find anything, but the idea is not to find issues. The idea is to see if we can get those list of controls that are possible, and then yeah, no. So no findings because we don't have Lambda functions, container registry, images, instances. But if you have a working account, all people who already have like AMIs and other stuff created, they will find quite a bit of issues reported in this. You can have additional settings for your ECR and EC2 instance, scanning, etc. And you can also invite other accounts if you want to. This also allows sort of aggregation from other accounts. We had one Lambda function. So yeah, just explore this. I think this allows 15 days free trial. So try to explore this. And if you have issues in your like AWS account, that's when you will have a bit of learnings as to what those issues are. And if you can remember like 2-3 of them, take them to your interview or your discussions, that would be a positive point. Similarly, we have guard duty. Now, guard duty, when I have seen in the organizations, it's usually a very quiet service, wouldn't be doing anything most of the time, very silent, and suddenly all of a sudden, and on a blue moon, you will see that guard duty has reported some threats. So usually it's AI ML driven process, so it will allow a lot of actions to happen in your accounts, but when it detects something unusual, that is when it will notify you that that something unusual is happening. So for example, if I am logging in to my AWS accounts from Australia regions, everything will be fine. If I move to US suddenly and then I try to log into my accounts through a different region, then it will detect that this is an anomaly and then it will notify. Similarly, if you have a key which is a Terraform resource creation key, it usually generates buckets, EC2. Suddenly it's tried to create AI ML services or try to create very large instances or something unusual happens in your account, this service will come into picture and automatically notify you. Again, very similar. I'm not sure if we should enable it or not. Let's try it again. Very similar sort of concept. You can aggregate in a specific region, specific account if you want to, but it will be very quiet in nature. So it can detect S3, EKS, all other things, and you can invite all other accounts. If you want to invite your prod account, etc., you can do it here. You can add those 12 digits account number, invite them, and go back into your prod account, accept the invitation, and that's how your guard duty will start looking at these things. Right now it won't have, but so we need to first understand what sort of findings these different tools are providing, why there are so many of them, what do they do at different layer. So there is something at control tower level, then SCP policies, then security hub, trusted advisor, guard duty, AWS inspector. These different services do different things. There will be a bit of overlap across these services, but at very high level, the idea is that all these services combined together is taking you towards a sort of compliance level, compliance achievement, etc. You won't have any major findings right now in these accounts. Let's take a look at CloudTrail at very high level. Let's switch back to our master account. And go back to our control tower, where we had set up control tower on day 1. If you remember, we have this logs account automatically created. Landing zone settings. Okay. This is our home region, Sydney. And we have AWS CloudTrail enabled. And we have these regions being governed. Okay, this is our CloudTrail configuration. So when we are using control tower, one of the advantages is that it can aggregate all the events that are happening in your account and send all your logs to a specific centralized logging account, which is our logs account. So here is that setting. It says that your organization level logging is enabled. You don't have to go and enable logs, CloudTrail logs in every region and every account. Automatically does that and sends everything to this one single S3 bucket, which is, if you see this account number, this is our logs account automatically created, 745. 745 is our logs account. So everything goes into this specific bucket, even though this is a AP Southeast 2, which is Australia bucket, but everything goes into this one for different regions. Okay, I just wanted to show you this part and all right, so this is that logging. So once the logs go into a specific account, specific region, a specific bucket, you can do a lot of analytics on top of that. You can use AWS Athena to run queries as to what is happening in different accounts, what user is taking action, all sort of things. You guys are aware of the trails, right? So all those features, just that control tower allows you to create those logs automatically. We are left with just the last service, WAF. Now, once you start creating all these different security services and your resources in your account, then we go back to our well-architected framework tool, where you can create, you can review, you can validate that you are following good practices in your account, all sort of things. So you can create, starts with a bit of manual process, this activity. And I think in the mentorship project, we have like already discussed about this quite a bit. At that time, we did not had automation enabled, but now since we have automation enabled, we'll see that this has basically a capability to read information from all other security tools or those sort of things. So it can basically read information from your security hub and other tools using automation. So that's what it does. So well-architected framework is sort of Bible to AWS, like what AWS suggests doing with your resources. So you can define a specific workload. Again, as I said, bit of manual step in the entire process. Which region and which account you want to monitor. And then you can start to review your workloads. Workloads is nothing but your AWS resources that you have created. You can start to review them with your peer or yourself, or with a lead, and then that should give you a bit like an outcome where you stand, where your application stands in terms of AWS recommendations. And if you really don't want to do this lengthy activity, I think Ram and Aman has shared with me sort of WAF spreadsheet. The idea is again that we take at least 5 to 10 such rules that we can talk in our interviews, that we can talk in our discussions. So thanks guys who shared me these things, Aman and Ram. This is the pillar, operational excellence. This is the question in that WAF. It will say, how do you determine what your priorities are? That means, are you tracking your priorities in your accounts? Do you have stakeholders in your accounts? These are more of process related things. How is the escalation process? So there are like, I think roughly 56, 55 or 57 questions, but within each question, there are recommendations that AWS does. We need to take 5 to 10 such recommendations in our interviews. That is our main objective, to understand some of them, not all of them, mainly related to S3, EC2, how we are, bringing best practices into our process. So you will say yes to these questions if you have done these activities. If you involve your stakeholders, you have business development operation team, then you will say, yes, I'm doing this, which will improve your score in the operational excellence. For example, do you evaluate your compliance requirements? Yes, I evaluate compliance requirements, and then I implement Security Hub and those compliance in my account. So then you will go and select this tool. Say yes. I know it can be quite overwhelming providing all this information into one single session. So try to, I'll share this spreadsheet and you try to implement these things in your account and try to understand that why we are doing these activities, and do come back with any questions, any more information you need on this. But these are the tools, that's how they are integrated. This well-architected tool can read from Guard Duty, can read from Security Hub, Trusted Advisor, and your manual inputs that you're going to provide based on your answer to these questions. It will rate you how well you are in the operational side, in the security pillar, in the cost optimization area, and likewise. That's how all these things are sort of related. And that's all I wanted to cover in this session today. I know it, if you haven't tried these things, and it will be a lot of information in a short period of time, but these tools, we don't have to go deep down into each and every tool as such. The tool provides certain rules, runs those rules against our AWS resources, whether it's Guard Duty, whether it's Trusted Advisor, or whether it is security. All of them have common approach. They will run certain controls, certain rules against our AWS resources. Try to check whether they are meeting good practices or not. These good practices is where our focus is. We want to understand what those practices AWS is recommending. Those practices are hidden in the controls. So when we say Security Hub has certain controls, so when we look at these different controls, those controls is what we should be focusing on. Durgesh say, notice the score will be generated in 30 minutes or so in the demo environment. Yes. Yes, it does take. I was trying to search through all the screens to see where we can see that scoring kind of thing, but I couldn't find. I'm just referring the chat right now, and does take a bit of time, Security Hub, and then generate a view for you. Any questions you have? See, after a while, Security Hub has started reporting more past certain things fails. These controls is where we need to understand a little bit more what those controls are and what
Even the score is generated. Is there in the last screen?
Which screen?
Just the last screen that you were in, the score was there as 32%.
Yes.
Yeah.
So There used to be a meter kind of thing as well in past I have seen. But they keep changing the UI. Something like this. It used to show like where do you stand in terms of your compliance. So basically, you are 48% compliant in this as per this. And this is a better, like it's blue, which means reasonably okay. Because you can't achieve 100% in all these things. A lot of compliance and rules are very hard to manage. So yeah, even in a account which we have recently created, which does not have resources, is only 31% compliant. Because we haven't set password policies, we haven't set MFAs. Once you start doing that, the score will improve, and that leads to better compliance. Okay, so this was the monitoring and compliance at multi-account, multi-region sort of that I wanted to bring, because these good practices will enable you to speak in your discussions, suggest. If you are already working, you can suggest these tools. If you are learning and you are trying to improve your vocabulary, then these tools will give you terms and technologies and things to talk about. Let's open for questions. I think unless you try this, you won't have any questions as such. You will have to give it a try. Most of these products have 30 days trial. So even I will go and clean up all these products from these Sydney region and all other regions that I enabled and all the accounts. So I will not be charged by AWS. And then I'll keep an eye around 30 days when the trial ends. That's something I'm still not being charged. That a bit of awareness we have to show so that we don't get charged by AWS. Any questions before we close this? I logged into prod account, Sydney region, where we had requested this certificate, and we have the certificate issued, which was taking time. It's not in use right now. Once we start to enable certain services, then we can then use this certificate. If you go to load balancers or anywhere, we can then use this certificate if we want to. Anyway, we'll not get into that at this stage. It's a bit of too much information, but this is how we can request certificate. And because this CNAME and this thing was created, which also means that our domain is actually ready to go if we want to use that.
Sanjeev, I have a question.
Yes.
So let's say we are doing all these activities inside our QA account, and now we want to move the same stuff to our prod. So what's a good strategy to do that? Is it like using ISC, or are there other ways to do it?
Usually for certificate, there won't be like app repository will not be used as such. Like for example, you are creating ALB, and best practice is definitely through infra as code. But it can sometimes, like I have seen these certificates and enablement of certain security products, you will do it in a central repository, like in outside of your app deployments.
Okay, got it.
So sometimes these different teams will do it, which is managing certificates and have access to, usually DevOps and cloud engineers even may not have access to the management of your Route 53 hosted zone. Because if you delete that or you create, at the end of the day, a lot of subdomains and a lot of certificates and records will end up creating. So for example, in my organization, we have like just a hosted zone, which has 500 plus records created. If we delete that for some reason, or we end up deleting that, all our services will break. So limited people will have access to that, and specific repository will be creating resources in there. So certificate will be created by a different repository used by your app or wherever you are deploying EKS, EC2, CloudFront distribution. They will use that certificate.
What does repository mean in this context?
Like if you are creating infrastructure as code, then a different repository will be used for creating certificates.
Oh, got it.
Different repository for utilizing that certificate.
Got it.
Now that's not 100% like that's exactly how it will be, but quite a number of teams or companies would prefer that there is an isolation between certificates and hosted zone and certificates and those central level stuff. And then applications are using those certificates.
Got it. Thanks.
All right. Before we close off this session, next week and onwards will be on Saturday, because yeah, being in Australia, otherwise the Monday gets screwed up completely. So it's already 12:30 a.m. in the morning. So next sessions and all the future sessions, they will be happening on Saturday at the same time.
I think we should publish it on
Yeah, we'll do
WhatsApp.
that.
Yeah. All right, I'm stopping the recording and then we'll publish this. Thanks,
All right.
guys.
Thanks, Sanjeev. Great session.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sanju. It's really great session today.
I know that certificate and all that stuff didn't work out. That was a bit
It's
of,
fine.
yeah, we'll see how we can fix that. And we will basically move on to hosting a static website and then creating path-based and these additional routes and using this certificate and make it slightly more dynamic in nature. And we'll get into that application hosting.
Just one request from me, Sanjeev. If the slides have been shared before in the Project 3 WhatsApp group, for a long time I have not been part of that group. I joined only today. I realized that
I will be sharing this
there.
latest version today as
well. Right, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Take care. Bye.